Hey everyone, Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation. And today I've got a special guest. I have got Brandon Battick from Disturbing the Priest YouTube channel. Please check it out. How are you, Brandon?
I'm good, Peter. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Bootlegs are my life. I'm excited to talk about them. As someone who's extremely broke, I live off these things. So happy to dive into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Today's topic is bootlegs. Bootlegs, bootlegs, bootlegs. And the thing that really sort of started the conversation with Brandon and the germ of the idea for this show was that I did a trip to Japan, and Tokyo is the capital of bootlegs in the world. And you can check out some other videos that I've done on Rock Daydream Nation where I reviewed the bounty. Hopefully I didn't weigh the play down too much. And a lot of folk have said, well, Pete, can you tell us what's the outcome? What are these bootlegs like? So it's a segue into going over some of the bootlegs in that Tokyo trip, and also just talking about the topic of bootlegs per se. So, Brandon, I've got quite a few bootlegs in my collection. I assume you have the same.
Yes, I'm actually sitting right next to a big stack of them right here. I have for props. But
Yeah,
yeah, and they come in many different kinds. There's many different kinds of bootlegs, from studio records to live recordings. There's plenty to jump into for sure.
absolutely. And it's a good way to actually confirm or deny whether a band are as good as history sort of tells you they are. So, like, were Guns N' Roses sloppy? Were Black Sabbath really on the money? Were Led Zeppelin, what were they like live? It's a real time capsule to basically listen to these bootlegs, good, bad, and indifferent in sound quality, and we'll talk about that, to just go in that time machine and be with the audience and actually hear what they were like. Because a lot of the official live albums are not so live. Kiss Alive. Sorry, folks, that was in a studio. Um,
One
there's a
of the
lot of
best live albums
um,
that isn't a live album though, truly. Like
yeah,
just amazing though.
Cheap Trick live in Budokan. Sorry, folks, it wasn't actually recorded in Budokan. Um, you know, a lot of the famous live albums, there's a lot of studio trickery. There's a lot of sort of cleaning up of mistakes and vocal enhancements. It's not so live. Bootlegs are the real deal. So I guess the thing, I always think that bootlegs, Brandon, are like a lucky dip. So you don't know what you're going to get. And a lot of these, especially in the 70s and the early 80s, were recorded by people bringing cassette players in, putting them in their pocket. And depending where they were in relation to the sound and to the amplifiers, or where they were to the stage, is how good the sound, the sonics are. So, I've got some bootlegs where it's obviously they're right up near the front, and you can hear the vocals and everything. The bass is just booming out, and you don't hear much treble. And then there are others where it's very trebly, and you don't hear a lot of bass. So it's usually you're sacrificing one for the other. It's very rare in an audience bootleg where they're doing it on a cassette tape, um, to get that perfect fidelity of sound. Is that what you've found with a lot of your bootlegs that are not off the soundboard? They're obviously somebody's had it on a cassette player.
For sure. I've been, scammed quite a lot. I feel like when it comes to bootlegs, I always think of the term buyer beware, because I bought an $80 bootleg once of a band that was like, they just finished their tour of a new record. I bought an $80 bootleg. It was like a 3 disc set. I listened to it. It was someone just on their iPhone on voice memo, just holding their phone up to the stage. Some of the worst quality I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, like, there's many different kinds. It's really, you never know. It's the luck of the draw. It's the roll of the dice. Um, Even with those, those console recordings, the soundboard tapes, you get the raw multi-track, But the thing is, the raw multi-track isn't made for a live record. It's made for a live experience. Like I have a studio, or not a studio, but a soundboard recording here, and it sounds great. But the bass is turned up so high. It's like if I was a bass player, I can learn the exact every bass line this band has ever played because it's so loud. Again, it's mixed for a live recording, so even those sought after soundboard tapes, even those can be very hit or miss. But every single bootleg I've ever gotten has just been really a roll the dice for me.
100%. So you've got to set your expectations low. And when you're going to record fairs, because I love going to record fairs because I'm a bit of a vinyl collector, I get excited when I see something and you've got to sort of calm down, take a deep breath and go, okay, am I willing to spend $60 or 40 or 50? And some of these bootlegs can be quite expensive, 100 plus. Are you willing to take the risk? Because you've got to set your expectations low. I'd prefer to set my expectations low and be surprised than have it the other way. And I have to admit, with this Japan trip, I went into a place and it was like an apartment. I went into an apartment building, into an apartment. It was nondescript, and it was like Aladdin's cave in Tokyo. And it was wall-to-wall bootlegs. And it had all professional sort of covers. So that's one that I'll talk about. Ozzy Osbourne, Hammersmith, Blizzard of Oz. We'll talk about this, but it looks so professional, all the bootlegs. And I can tell you, it's a lucky dip. It is. It is a roll of the dice. Some are good, some are bad, but it's got the track listing. It looks like an official release. But what's on the disc?
This one also looks like the band put it out. It's a record. It's a vinyl. If I didn't know any better, I'd be like, wow, I didn't know they put out this live record. There's so many. They trick you almost, They do. So there are a couple of rules that I think we should just talk about before we get into the reviews of our bootlegs, good, bad, and different. So I think generally a soundboard recording, you'll have some sort of level of success. It'll be decent. It'll be at least listenable. So if it's not a soundboard recording or not a recording that was done like an FM radio simulcast, that means it's an audience member that has probably done it on a cassette tape, reel-to-reel or something, and the fidelity is going to be not necessarily great. Yeah.
Is that what you found with your bootlegs?
Oh, yeah. Like there's really isn't a single bootleg I own where I listen to it. I'm like, oh, that just sounds so good sonically. It's really just, I'm such a nerd for this band. We're just hearing Tony Iommi like just shred in the late 60s is worth it for me. That's all. I don't care if it sounds like it was recorded with a toaster. As long as I can hear certain things, I am in. I have a Black Sabbath bootleg from those kind of Earth days. I know they're putting out an official release for Black Sabbath where it's the Earth Lost tapes. And it used to be a bootleg. I feel like Black Sabbath is the ultimate band where they just take bootlegs and just give it the stamp of approval. But truly, even official bootlegs that become official records still sound like garbage. You can only do so much. With these labels and these people who do end up having the multi-tracks of these live recordings, you can only make it sound so good. So it's kind of rough. It's really just for the ultra fans. That's what I've found from it.
I think you raise a very interesting point. If you're a fan of Guitar Heroes, then maybe you can set your expectations lower because your brain is just going to be focused on guitar lines. So if you want a Van Halen bootleg, you're just going to be listening to Eddie Van Halen. You won't care about the sound, but as long as I can hear what he was doing in 1982 or 1978 in a live setting, Richie Blackmore, Eric Clapton, Tony Iommi. If you're a Guitar Hero fan, maybe you can forgive all the rest, that it's really cruddy sound. But as long as you can hear the guitar line and what he was doing with his licks and solos and all the rest, then maybe there's a forgiveness factor. Wouldn't you agree?
100%, because Bootlegs, it's a little like a time machine. You're getting a glimpse of what used to be. Like Van Halen, of course, there's not a ton of official stuff out there, and there's bootlegs galore for Van Halen, And with Black Sabbath, all we really got for the Ozzy era was that like Live at Last, that was kind of a middle finger to the band themselves. So it just doesn't feel right listening to that. But there's bootlegs of every single tour they ever did,
Yeah.
and I have all of them. And
Yeah.
some of them sound terrible, so terrible, but it's worth it for me because seeing my favorite band, like it's almost like a glimpse of like, what if I was there? I was born in 98. Like Sabbath was on their like what fourth lineup or their fourth era. I mean, by that point, it's like, it's so cool as a fan to not have lived during those times to like get kind of a glimpse of like, what was this band like if it was like 1975 and I wanted to see them? What would that have sounded like? And bootlegs give you that opportunity. So I love them just for that as well.
I call that Black Sabbath album Live at Past.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. Just such a middle finger to the band. It's crazy.
The
Well
timing of that
represented.
was just so weird. Anyway, that's for another show. Another thing we need to talk about is timing. So if you're going to get a bootleg from a heritage classic rock band in the 70s and 60s, just be aware because they didn't have the fidelity, they didn't have the technology in that sort of situation to have a clear sound. So the folks that were recording this were doing it on the fly. It was probably quite primitive. Just set your expectations lower. But from the middle 80s onwards, then you've got more chance of success if it's not on the soundboard. Is that what you find with your bootlegs?
Yeah. Now, to build off your point of like how primitive it used to be, like I do like some early Grateful Dead records, and I have a friend who's super into them, and he's like, you got to hear this bootleg from, 72. It's amazing, and so, he sends me all these archives, and I see these pictures of like the bootleggers back then, and they're holding like these boom mics, and they got headphones on, they got like several mics on them. It's crazy. It really is crazy where nowadays people take something like a pod track, which is like this mobile mixer, and they just plug it into the board. Of course, nowadays there are people who just like have their own little microphones to record it. But yeah, it's totally it's evolved so much. It really has, and the quality definitely shows that for sure.
Well,
Is that what you were asking?
that story you've just told me about the boom mic sort of
Yeah,
means I think the band were encouraging that. Bring it on. We love that. If
for
if they
sure,
if
for
they see
sure.
boom mics and people taping their shows, then they're grooving. They're into that. But I know there are some bands, if they saw a boom mic, you'd be thrown out, like Peter Grant and Led Zeppelin. I found
Oh, if
Led
you were at a
Zeppelin
Tool
were,
show,
yeah, Led Zeppelin
yeah.
were very bullish with bootleggers. They'd be thrown out and beaten up. But it's quite ironic because I always see photos of Jimmy Page at record stores, popping up at record stores in England or going to record fairs. And what's he looking up? Led Zeppelin bootlegs. Yeah.
Have you seen, dude? Have you seen that video of Neil Young going into like a record store and he finds a bootleg of his and he's like, "Hey, I'm just taking this," and the guy's like, "You can't. That's robbery." And he's like, "Call your boss." So he calls his boss and he takes the phone. He's like, "Hey, it's Neil Young. You're holding one of my bootlegs," and he's like, "Yeah, just take it, I guess." It's
Well, you know
crazy.
what?
I've never
That's
seen anything like that.
I think I'm fine. That's publicity. And there's
Right.
no such thing as bad publicity, mate. Any
um,
publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, and I want to like talk about real quick. You mentioned it's like there's some bands who encourage it. There's this band, in your backyard, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them,
700
but
albums and counting.
yes, I'm a massive fan, And I'm not sure if you know this, but if you go on their website, they have the multi tracks of every single show they've ever done, and they encourage people to download them and press like their own live records from them. Like they encourage bootlegs. I've never seen a band like go to that length to like literally go on the website and every show mix the multi-track and then post the like the WAV file online. It's just so cool. And you know, bands will be like, well, we're wasting money. It's like, well, if there's any band, you know, top three bands I've ever spent more money on, I think it's King Gizzard, you know, because they feed the fans so much and just it makes you almost addicted. You just want more. You become more of a fan of them. It's like bands got to realize you got to take care of the fans. Where when you put all these walls up, you know, it's just it seems like I don't know. It's just you isolate the fans by doing that. And if you're good to them, you give them all this stuff, they're gonna want to buy stuff. So that's just what I've feel like when it comes to that stuff.
One more thing we want to talk about at Bootlegs is bootlegs of rehearsals, demos, isolated guitar tracks, bass lines. That's another element to bootlegs that come out. So I'll give you an example. Deep Purple recorded the album Come Taste the Band. They replaced Richie Blackmore with Tommy Bolin. And this came out, albeit under the Purple label, but it was a bootleg that was, you know, going around for quite some time. And this is Days May Come and Days May Go. And it's actually the Tommy Bolin, his first sort of rehearsals with the band. So they were sort of doing, you know, they were trying out all these various guitarists, and it's just basically an hour of him jamming with the band. So that's a bootleg, but it becomes official, and it's a mighty fine bootleg too, because you can tell they're in the studio, they've got all the necessary technology, and it's just like a, you know, listening to a studio recording, albeit it's a bootleg and it was never meant to be released. So my definition of bootleg is something that's never supposed to be officially released.
Yeah, yeah, and Tommy Bolin, like Private Eyes, is one of my favorite, like just like solo guitarist records. And we only so much of him, you know. So bootlegs like that, I can see how much they can snowball. That specific one you showed, I've been looking for that one forever. It's hard. Some of these are really hard to find.
It's
eBay seems
magnificent.
like the place. Yeah, man. It's
Yeah.
some of these are tough. I find eBay to be the best place to grab them because you know, I actually used to work at a record store and there were certain bootleg distributors that would contact us who would just make like they'd be like, we have a catalog of 200 bootlegs. Check it out. If you want any, you can order them. So it's crazy. There's like these big, almost like secret labels that are distributing to record stores. But yeah, a lot of times it's just some dude burning CDs, you know, and eBay seems like the place to go. But that one specifically is phenomenal. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, how about we just share some bootlegs? So I'll do it by artist. So we'll take it in turns. So I guess I brought him up before, so I'll do it again. This is Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz band, as they were originally known. Hammersmith Odeon, 1980. This is the classic lineup that recorded Blizzard of Oz. So Bob Daisley, Lee Kerslake. So I'm in a record store. I'm in that bootleg Aladdin Cave, and I see this, and I go, I've got to have that. I'm sort of like the light is blinding me, and so I played it. It's very bass heavy, so it is obviously somebody has recorded it. It's not bad. Ozzy sings really well, so he's on form. This is just after they've recorded these songs, so this is really kind of green, and it's an interesting document of this band. But what I can hear is Daisley and Kerslake were in lockstep. They were a mighty fine bottom end with this band, and basically I got the tribute album with Ozzy Osbourne. That was my entry point to the Randy Rhoads era, and his playing is magnificent. So 2 albums, what could have been if he was still alive, but such a magnificent player. And everything that you hear about Randy is just, you know, amplified on this particular album. or this bootleg. So they do all the things, Goodbye to Romance, No Bone Movies, and then they do Sabbath. They sort of wrap it up with Sabbath at the end, Iron Man, Children of the Grave, and then Steal Away the Night and finish off with Paranoid. And it's got the whole show. So there's bits where they're clapping and waiting for the band to come off, from the encore. There's stage patter, and that's the thing I like about bootlegs, because when you have official live, they cut out all the stage patter. They cut out the moments of silence, and it's good. What actually came with this album and made this purchase irresistible was this one, the actual isolated guitar tracks of
That's awesome.
Blizzard of Oz. Fantastic. So all the songs, completely working tracks. You can hear how they've done it. It's great. It's fantastic. Sharon Osbourne, don't sue me.
There's a lot of musicians I hope don't see this, because there's so many famously who hate bootlegs, which is such a shame.
There's so much out there. There's so much live material with Ozzy, but that's a whole different show. We've got to get into that. But hopefully it gets out one day. But this is a really interesting document of how they built up the songs off that album. And one thing's for sure, Randy was quite inspired. His guitar playing is just sublime. And you wouldn't know it, because those early Quiet Riot albums were quite ordinary. There was nothing really, so there was some spark with this project, with the people around him that, brought him into the next level. So this is where he became sort of near legendary status. And then I've got one here, which is in Minnesota. So this is a different lineup, 1982. So you've got Rudy Sarzo coming in, Tommy Aldridge. This is unlistenable. It is really, really bad. It's muffled. It's terrible. You feel like the bass and the drums. Tommy is a very heavy drummer as it is, but can you imagine for a cassette player? So this is unfortunately just unlistenable. But
what percentage of the bootlegs you own do you think are just like completely unlistenable? For me, I'd say like 40% of them.
Yeah, 40 to 50%.
Yeah, it's just such a risky thing to like be into,
Yep. So one that's okay that I can hear the guitar line, and one's unlistenable, and that's probably the Aussie ones. So what have you got to show me?
Yeah, so I have a few, all vinyl here. I'm actually like the complete opposite. I only collect records because unfortunately my car doesn't have a CD player. I got Ghost right here, kind of a newer band, but this is the tour of their second record. And Ghost didn't really you listen to their like official live stuff, and they don't really care about the first two records, especially that first album, which is my favorite. And they play so many, like Death Duel. They have a cover of Here Comes the Sun on this by the Beatles. Like, just really awesome stuff. It's kind of a lost gem. Ritual. They play like the entire first record on this. I love it to death, and it sounds good. Yeah, it's like the drums are a little loud on it because it's just like it's a soundboard recording, and it's random. It's from Iron Eagle Records. It's quite an interesting record. Here's an interesting one. This is a whole topic within itself. This is an official mixed live record. This is a bootleg. I was hoping this would come out with the Tony Martin set. It never did. It's too good to not get. So I found a bootleg on it, and I just got it. It's so good. It's my favorite. It's pretty much I on my YouTube channel, I ranked all the Black Sabbath live albums, and this is up there, man. This is like my number 2. You get 3 eras of Black Sabbath represented here, and it sounds fantastic. The mix and everything is good. It's one of my favorite bootlegs because it was actually like mastered and mixed by real people and not just like some dude like high in his basement. But this is a great one if you ever see it. It's
Well,
on
where was this played?
um where was this? Oh, where it was played, the concert? That's a good question, actually. It
Yeah,
should be
I'm
on.
intrigued. I'm excited seeing that.
Yeah, yeah. Hammersmith, London,
Hemisphere. There
Apollo.
you go,
Yeah.
folks. Black Sabbath. What great
Peter, have
era.
you heard this record?
I ranked the Black Sabbath Tony Martin years on the Rock Daydream Nation. I haven't heard the live album, but the Tony Martin era is just so underrated. But
Yeah.
they were at the from a commercial point of view, they were at a low. They were playing clubs, and
A shame.
a band like that should be playing 10,000 minimum seaters, not Hammersmith, which is like 5, 7. Like it's not a club, but smaller venues. And
He
the way,
kills it on this.
yeah, the
Yeah.
way they got out of it was reunite with Ozzy, and the rest is history. But the Tony Martin era is just so underrated. Great
So
singer.
underrated. So underrated. And I think this is you get the best version of Headless Cross on this. Also, little bit of, just to give you a little sneak peek of this record, they play Symptom of the Universe in its entirety, even the jam at the end. And he kills it. Tony Martin is so good. And that's like, I think he's better on that than Ozzy was on any live album, but that's a little bit of a hot take. Ozzy's one of my favorite, I think the greatest frontman ever, but God, his like technical ability is so good on that. Also, here we go. Black Sabbath, another one. Um, FM broadcast featuring the vocal stylings of the late Ray Gillen. Very
Another one
cool
of
to
my
have.
another one of my favorite singers. That Badland album. Wow.
Great.
He had a set of pipes. Now I have a bootleg in Toronto, a video bootleg. Now this is a whole another topic
Mm-hmm.
where it's almost unwatchable. It's really bad. It was obviously recorded on some funky VHS camera, and he's at Toronto doing that 1987 tour. So this is where Glenn Hughes only lasted 5 shows. He got punched out by the roadie or manager, and then they brought Ray Gillen in. And Ray Gillen sings like a powerhouse, but it's such a cruddy looking video. I can't watch it, but I have it. I own it, and I got sucked in on eBay. $30. It looked great. Do all the professional. See, a lot of these dealers, when they do their eBaying and selling bootlegs, they make it look really professional with the linear notes, and then when you put it in the player, oh, it looked terrible.
The
But it was
worst.
like
Even this one.
yeah,
Yeah. It's even this one doesn't sound amazing. It sounds kind of rough, actually, even though it's like an FM broadcast. Even those, are hit or miss.
yep,
And just to hear him like Ray sing "The Mob Rules," "Danger Zone," which is such an underrated Sabbath song, "War Pigs," "Heart Like a Wheel." It's just cool, because his time in Sabbath was like felt like 2
brief,
seconds. Yeah.
brief. And
For
basically,
sure.
he took the band into Badlands, really, didn't he? When you
Yeah,
look
he
at them, the
did.
components just they
Just
moved.
shifted over. This one as well. This is kind of just like, the Peel session, 1970. It's like some just rough mixes of, other
Mm,
takes of War Pigs, or Wall Purges, whatever the fuck that's called. Black Sabbath with different lyrics, War Pigs with different lyrics. Just cool. It's almost scary with it has like this black metal style recording to it. It's like, damn, this is I gotta light some candles right now. This is kind of freaky. Um, I'll try to speed this up. Black Sabbath 1970 live. They
what a
do
cover! What
this
a
is
cover!
quite a cover right there.
Mm,
There's a whole side dedicated to Sleeping Village, and it's a 30-minute jam. I've heard people they feel hit or miss about Black Sabbath being a jam band. I am all in, just hearing Tony Iommi shred for 10 minutes. That's all I need. That's really all I need in
I got a
life.
quick question. Do you
Yeah.
hear a bit of it? Were they kind of bluesy? It was a
Oh, for
doomy, but
sure.
bluesy as well.
For sure. Yes.
Mm,
Especially like even Bill Ward. He's like, it's like, wow, that is some bluesy drum. It's like, when they're not doing studio stuff and they're jamming, it's a complete blues band with distortion. It's just so awesome.
Yeah.
Also, this is just a whole topic. I with Cross Purposes Live. This isn't an official copy of Headless Cross. Before the box set came out, I'm such a Sabbath fan. I love this record. It wasn't on streaming. I had to get it. That's the thing. It's like some of these bands have great albums. They don't press them. So the fans say, you know what, I'll do it. And they put it out. And yeah, it's all right. It's just a digital recording of it. But just to spin Headless Cross before it was, what were original pressings? $300. So to
You
buy
raise
a
a great
$40
tangent here. You raise a great
copy,
tangent
yeah.
here.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because going to a different genre of music, Prince, he put out an album called the Black Album and he didn't like it. And they had to do a mass withdrawal. And these albums on the first pressing on the Warner's label are worth thousands of dollars. So there is I've seen them at record fairs where fans have done a copy on vinyl, but it's like a sixth generation and the sound quality is terrible. So this is another category of bootlegs where hard to get vinyl pressings or records and they do their own version of it. And, the withdrawn Black Album by Prince.
That's a
So,
great example. Yeah.
yeah. So
Here's another one right here. This one wasn't even pressed. There's not even, I don't think this even got a vinyl release. Euthanasia, Megadeth. This is like one of my favorite records. But it's crazy to me. It's like, Dave, please put this on vinyl. It's only one disc. People are going to get it. And then, of course, just to wrap things up, I have two bootlegs right here. But Megadeth live and live at Asbury Park, 1975, the greatest Black Sabbath live album of all time, in my opinion. Recently,
give it a release, folks. Come on,
it did. It did.
Make it official. Make it official.
Please make it official. Thankfully, Black Sabbath just did, because on their Sabotage box set they included that, and they as like a live disc. So I'm like, all right, wow, it really took a box set to give that a release. But yeah, some of these, it's like, please just put them out.
Well, that annoys me. That annoys me when it comes out in a box set, because I've got that box set and I had that album. But why can't they make it? These box sets are not cheap. I mean, bloody hell, that Kiss box set for Alive, Brandon, 1,200 Australian dollars. That's ridiculous.
Gene Simmons better come to my door and shake my hand. Yeah.
Gene and Paul are rich enough. They don't need my money. So some of my friends in the States on YouTube world have bought it or buying it. Not for me. That is just too much. That'll fund my daughter's education. Your money
at that point. Yes, exactly. It's like the amount of music you can buy with that amount of money. It's like, why waste it on that? But I don't know, if you're a reviewer or something, I kind of get it. But
and it's just it'll be nicely presented. It'll have all the trinkets and have the nice shiny book. But no, it's ridiculous. But why can't, going back to the topic of the Black Sabbath, why can't they release that as a standalone album? Because they want all parties to lead to the box set. You got to buy the box set to get it.
It's all money. All this, it always comes down to money. It's such a shame. I think a bit of it's greed too, and a bit of it's just like people be like sucking. Like, for example, Tool, where they just want to control their fans completely. I'm not sure if like, you're not allowed to bring your phone out at all during their shows. Until the last song, Maynard goes, all right, bring your phones out. And then you see thousands of phones come out, which is, I think, an interesting topic, which I was thinking about before this, was the fact that I think bootlegs are more popular than they've ever been before. Any show, you see Metallica go on a show, look up that show on YouTube, and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of videos. People don't realize that, but taking that video on your phone, technically a bootleg. you know?
Guilty as charged. It's on my
Yeah.
channel. I've gone to shows. I've whipped out the phone. Any show that I see and I'm really grooving, I'll record one song and put it up. So guilty as charged. But I have seen some very annoying patrons that record the whole show. And you're not
I
sort
don't
of
get that.
enjoying and being in the moment, Brandon. You're sort of like at that 1 degree of separation. It's just like you're a TV cameraman, you know. Aren't you there to enjoy the experience, the communication between the artist and you, instead of, getting your phone and putting it up and getting excited and you'll put it up on YouTube and get 100,000 hits? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, you see people at a show and they're like front stage, they're watching the concert on their phone at the concert. It's so stupid. There's two ends of the spectrum for sure.
Yes, there are.
There's one that's that, and there's another where it's like, you know, there's bands that don't allow phones. It's like, I paid $600 for a ticket. Sorry, I want to remember the show. You know, it's a little ridiculous. But I don't know. There's a good middle ground, I think.
Well, there we go. We've just gone into another subcategory of this show. This is what happens on Rock Daydream Nation. We just go into all these different tangents. But on the topic of Black Sabbath, it would be remiss if I did not bring up a show that features my friend over here, the name of his channel, on one of my favorite albums of all time. And I'm talking about Black Sabbath. I'm talking about Born Again. And I'm talking about this tour.
Peter, I knew you were going to do this to me. Come on. I don't have that one. That is my holy grail right there. I
France,
oh,
September 1983, and also Sporthal in Germany, 1983. It's good. I was actually had low expectations. I was worried, but it actually sounds good. It's a soundboard recording. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but you can hear all the components. But a lot of it focuses on, if you were in a mixing desk, Gillan's vocals are really way pumped up. So you get a good, interesting take on his vocals. And yes, he does fluff the words. So you've heard all these stories, because you could do a whole episode on Born Again. It's sort of, there's a lot of Spinal Tap type shenanigans that were happening, and the story of Ian, you know, fluffing the words because he was writing them down and the dry ice would cover it. And it is confirmed, but for the most part, he sings well. And he handles the material with great aplomb. Actually, I'd probably say the Born Again material, he absolutely slams it. It sounds unusual hearing him sing Paranoid and Iron Man. Tony Iommi plays Smoke on the Water. That's interesting in itself. But it's good. I rate it very highly.
You know, I love the Worcester recording of that one because I'm from Boston. So it's like kind of just like, oh, it's right there. They were right there, you know, right in the backyard. And the mix is pretty good. You know, I don't like how they do Smoke on the Water. It's just kind of like, I at that point I might as well just listen to like a Deep Purple bootleg. But I'll say this, you know, you said it's kind of weird, you know, hearing him sing some like Sabbath songs. Honestly, I have the opposite opinion. I think he fits Sabbath's music, like their legacy stuff, so well. I'll even go as far as saying Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, when he sings that song on that bootleg, he is on par with Ozzy Osbourne.
Ooh,
He
that's
adds
amazing. That's
this,
a big
he
call.
adds, and I'm saying it right here on Rock Daydream Nation, that I think he adds this haunting element to it. It's like he really embraces the horror element of that song. You know, like really, really, like Dio did it, of course, but his version is like it's like you took that song and then put it through that Born Again filter. And that song represents, I feel like, if anything, you know, Born Again is their doomiest record. And Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath is a doomy song within itself. So I feel like that's why it works very well. You know, listen, if before you write a comment, go listen to it. And it's amazing. I've converted people before with that comment where they'll hear it and they'll be like, honestly, you're onto something. Ozzy's the greatest man ever. You know, he is my idol. No one could touch him. But I think Ian Gillan came this close. I really think he did. I think, if anything, he's on par with Ozzy when it comes to the live recording of Black Sabbath. So if there's our hot take for this episode.
That is the hottest take I've heard in a long time, but I appreciate your opinion. I like this I like this live recording. Another minor fault is Bev Bevan's drumming. It's a little bit unusual. It doesn't have the oomph of a Bill Ward, or for that matter, Vinny Appice. You can tell he's got more pop chops, pop sensibility. And to me, that's like a slight mismatch. Doesn't have the heaviness. That's just a minor blemish. You know what I mean? In the whole proceeding.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. But Disturbing the Priest is, his singing on that is just like on the record. He's going for it. And I did a top 10 greatest vocal performance by Ian Gillan, and Disturbing the Priest was in there.
And I'm talking cackle, man.
To me, I think, like, I don't know if Ian Gillan was the original Jesus Christ Superstar. He did the first soundtrack. And to me, I think 20 years later, he's playing Born Again like a theatrical show. So he's played Jesus, and now Born Again is like the polar opposite, and he's playing Satan. And he does this sort of vocal performance. It's very theatrical. And that's why I think it's an amazing vocal performance, and I think it's one of his 10 best. But vocally, all the material on Born Again, very theatrical, and he sings it fantastically. I would have loved to have been at this show.
I would cut off my arm to be at that show. Seriously. I would take out my youngest cousin just to have witnessed that show alone. Seriously, Matt. Like, there is an aura surrounding that tour. There really is, from the Spinal Tap moments to just the chemistry, to where Tony Iommi's headspace, to what the band was doing. It's just, there's so much to love from that era. I know people hate it, but I am obsessed with it. Like, my podcast is called Disturbing the Priest.
I know. I'm obsessed with it. Sebastian Bach, I interviewed him, and he mentioned it. We were talking about Ian Gillan, and he said, man, Disturbing the Priest, the vocals on that. So that's Sebastian Bach grooves on it. I groove on it. A lot of people groove on it. I think this album has grown weight over time. At the time when it came out, people laughed at it, thought it was the worst Black Sabbath album of all time. I reckon its reputation has grown dramatically.
Peter, I have a question for you. You know, do you have a favorite bootleg you own?
AC/DC.
There you go.
1975. So that's
awesome.
This was a radio station called 2SM, and this is early Bon Scott. So they're playing songs like Soul Stripper, Can I Sit Next to You, Baby Please Don't Go. Perfect quality, but you sort of get the rascalness of Bon Scott, and it sounds fantastic.
If there's any band where I feel like they get a pass for having like a raw sound live record, it's AC/DC. You know, I feel like their music complements it so well. I'd say for me, it's Asbury Park easily. I think the greatest Black Sabbath live show ever recorded. But,
absolutely. I'm a huge Whitesnake fan, and I'm more so the David Coverdale before 1987 with John Sykes. I love that blues era, like late 78 to probably up to Slide It In 1984. This one I got from Japan, and it's Rafters 1978. Basically, it's the incarnation of the Whitesnake band, and they're playing like a gentleman's club. So these were like smoky little bars or clubs in England, had a capacity 300. And it's David Coverdale, Bernie Marsden, Mickey Moody, they're the two guitarists, Neil Murray, David Dowell, and a Brian Johnston on keyboards. I didn't know Brian Johnston was playing keyboards. Different Brian, but it sounds great. And he does a mixture of Deep Purple songs like Lady Luck, Mistreated, and then there's all different sort of the early Whitesnake songs that came out on Trouble. And then we go to 1981, and this is Come and Get It. And this is the classic lineup that I like, where it's Coverdale, Marsden Moody, Murray, John Lord, and Ian Pace. And again, this is it sounds like it's an audience recording. They're right up front, but it's really clear and it sounds really, really nice. I love the performances. David Coverdale's vocals before he went into that Robert Plant type era sounds great. He's got that wonderful Paul Rodgers bluesy lower vocals. The band's on fire. It sounds fantastic. So that's a good bootleg.
I'll have to check that out on YouTube. I haven't heard those. Sound awesome. Thankfully, a lot of these are on YouTube.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So you don't have to go and get the CD. A lot of times you'll get lucky that I've noticed where you'll see a CD or a vinyl and you can find the exact same thing on YouTube and kind of just like hear if it sounds like, crap. But, thankfully I've been on a pretty good streak with some of my bootlegs, but YouTube is where I, when it comes to where I listen to most of my bootlegs, it's YouTube for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Van Halen, I picked up Van Halen. So this one was off the 1984 tour. Not so good. It's very bass heavy. You can hear Eddie's guitar playing. So it goes back to what I was saying about being a guitar hero. That's really interesting to hear. And there's a moment where David stops the show and somebody had lit a flare on stage. And he starts swearing of it, who threw that flare on stage? One thing I noticed about Van Halen with David Lee Roth, there's a lot of chit-chat. And that's a frustration because I've, following Eddie Trunk, who's a huge Van Halen fan, he said, look, I love that era, but David just kept on stopping the show and it became very cabaret and I just wanted more songs. And that's evident on this 1984 tour where there's a lot of sort of small talk and you just want more songs. But quality-wise, it's not the greatest. But this one is the best bootleg I picked up in Japan. And this is Fort Wayne and Louisville in 1982. And this is off the Diver Down era. And to me, it's like an official live recording. It sounds magnificent.
Looks like a box set almost. Like it's pretty thick looking.
Yeah, it's a double set.
Nice.
And it's a soundboard. It must be a soundboard recording, but it just sounds perfect. I'd give that a 9 out of 10. This is the best out of all the bootlegs I purchased in Japan. And they do all the material from, Van Halen 1 right up to Diver Down, and they're on fire. And there's a moment where David is singing, I think Romeo's Delight, and he goes, and I've forgotten the fucking words.
That's awesome.
He's still got the, the stage patter, but it's not as much. But this is just so authentic because you hear the crowd clapping, you hear the pauses when the band have gone off and they're coming back on, and it makes you feel like you're there. So Kiss Alive, 1975. I wanted to get a Kiss one because everyone says Alive was recorded in the studio. It's not actually live. It's a little bit rough, but one thing you can tell is Ace Frehley was a gun guitarist and Peter Criss was a great drummer and probably doesn't get the accolades that he, probably deserved because a lot of folks saw them in the 96 reunion tour and he wasn't really the forceful drummer, the force of nature of what he was in the 70s. Are you a Kiss fan or?
I saw them 3 times on their final tour, which just sounds silly even saying. But yeah, I'm a pretty big Kiss fan. I do like, I love their first two records. I think that's really where I'm a fan, like Hotter Than Hell with Parasite. There's a lot of good cuts on that for sure. I'm more of a deep cut guy with Kiss, where I'm not sure if you saw what Paul Stanley said about that recently, but he thinks deep cuts are stupid, which unfortunately is the reason why I listen to a lot of bootlegs, because you can listen to these tours where, the heavy rotation at the time is a deep cut now. So yeah, of course, like, Kiss bootlegs, anything I've heard has been from those first two records from that era. And it's just cool to hear songs where it's like, whoa, and they'll never play them live again. But that's really it for me for Kiss.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think that it's where it's at with that those first two albums. I like Rock and Roll Over. I just did a show with another gentleman that'll be showing on Rock Daydream Nation. But the 70s era is classic Kiss. And yeah, it's really funny. Those first two albums, you look at their song set on that final tour, and it was like half of it was from those first two albums, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah, which
drawing the material from.
yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Like for me, I think a final tour, a final go, it should represent like most of the albums. I think, I don't think a final tour should be like we're just playing the hits. A lot of people might disagree with me for that, but it
Bring
should
out
be
Bruce Kulick.
yeah,
Bring.
exactly. It should be celebrating the catalog, right? And that's
Mm,
just how I feel about it. I don't know. I got to hear a cut off Creatures of the Night, which was cool.
yeah,
But that's a record I also really like from them. That's like a later one after music from the Elder, I believe, if I'm getting the timeline right.
yeah. Well,
Which is
Creatures
some
of the
shitter.
Night. A lot of folk say that's the best Kiss album. So I think
So good. The great a comeback record, honestly.
yeah, absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. Bootlegs, bootlegs, bootlegs. A fun discussion, Brandon. You can see Brandon on Disturbing the Priest. I really think there might be a Born Again Black Sabbath show coming up on Rock Daydream Nation. We might get this bloke on and just spend an hour just yapping about that album, because I, like you, are obsessed by this album. I don't know
Let's do
why,
it. There,
because
yeah,
anytime
and
anytime I go to that, it, over there, B for Black Sabbath, I always pick that album out and put it on the turntable. It's just, I don't know why. I'm drawn to this album.
it ages so well. And Peter, before we end things off, with bootlegs, I totally forgot about that for Born Again. There's a bootleg that's really popular that I've been going for, which is a remix of that record. Which
I've got
it's
it.
the you
Yes.
do have it, yeah,
Yes, I
because
do. I forgot all
what
about
is
it.
it? Bill Ward's wife, ex-girlfriend, had the master tapes and like gave it to some guy who like properly mixed them. It's a crazy story, but
Yeah.
yeah, and there's an extra song too, but have to shout that out before we end things off here.
Well,
But
I have to say that I still like the original, because my brain has been conditioned to listen to that muffly done. It sounds like it's been recorded in a dungeon under duress, and I like that grimy sound. So I'm not quite sure when Tony does get the tapes and cleans it up whether I'm going to like it as much as the original. But
yeah, because
I'll wait and
like
see.
when it comes to a remix, I'm for it just because it's out of curiosity, and so like so many of my friends could just shut up about it. But for me, it's like I'm listening to Born Again, not like a Dream Theater record. Like I don't
Mm,
want it to be super clean. Like the whole point of it is it sounds like it was recorded in hell, and I like that. There's an appeal to me for that, but yeah, I love
absolutely.
it. I love everything about it.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. We just yapped around bootlegs. You can see Brandon. Check out his channel. Lots of content, great interviews. The one with Biff from Saxon's an absolute killer. Lots of panel shows. Check it out. Please tell us what you think of bootlegs, your favorite bootlegs, good, bad, and different. We love reading your comments. But one thing's for sure, more shows coming up on Rock Daydream Nation. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We're building a community. All the best, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.